to-do list and the schedule. Night and day there's more to do. Write the speeches, do the marketing, and the writing and the painting. It always keeps me hopping. I go around in circles till I'm very, very dizzy. Still it seems there's more to do. Maybe you can relate to Cinderella's adapted song about struggling to find time for what matters. I wanted to find more time to read. In years past, I had filled 2 pages full of all the titles I had read. And then I was noticing I was making a few titles read, and I was getting frustrated. I had done it before, I'd read more books, but I'd said yes to a few things, and well, it didn't seem like I had added that much more to my life. It added up. So I wondered, how do those people who read 100 books a year do it? Well, luckily for me, they not only have time to write all those books, they write articles so I can read tips. And I scanned those articles. They said I was reading wrong. Well, what they said is if you're still reading the same way that you read when you're 6, you're reading wrong. Well, if you had told me I was reading wrong when I was 6, I said that must be the problem. Because Mom, I want to be in the red group. Every day it seemed I would watch the red group don those big blue and gray earphones and walk off to the AV room and listen to a tape. Well, I sat there and waited for my turn to read my one sentence. And waited, all right, maybe not as patiently as I wished. So finally, my mom got tired of my pleading and my complaining, and she made an appointment with the teacher. She told the teacher she would do anything she had to do to get me from the green group to the red group. I wasn't there, and I'm not exactly sure that my teacher laughed in her face, but maybe. Because my mom came home so embarrassed, and I don't think she went to scheduled, well, technically, I was gonna say I don't think she scheduled an appointment with the teacher till I was 16 and almost failed driver's ed, but I think he called her in, so. But there were 4 reading groups. There was red, yellow, blue, and green, and I was in the highest level reading group, and there wasn't much that could be done to get me higher. But that red group was listening to vowel and consonant sounds, and armed with this information, I looked a little less longingly as they walked off to the AV room. Fast forward a few years later, when they had standardized tests. I don't know if you remember those days, but for a week it seemed, the only sound in the classroom after the teacher passed out the papers and we pulled out our number 2 pencils was the sound of a pencil sharpener as we filled out bubble after bubble after bubble. Well, every test showed that I did my best in reading comprehension. So if I was reading wrong, it was kind of working for me. But those articles said I was reading wrong, so I tried. I scanned the pages like they suggested, and it wasn't very fun to read. Well, especially because I had to read it again. Because that was not working for me. So I went back to those articles. They're like, well, find time to read. So maybe, like me, you've promised yourself, like, well, when this happens, things will slow down. Has anyone ever made that promise to themselves? Yeah. I'll have more time for this. When it's the new year, the summer break, I retire, I move to California. But whatever it is, that promise has a tendency to get lost because what we say yes to and no to determines how much time we have. So I want to help you find time for what matters. Now, in front of you is a sheet. If you don't have one, there's at least one extra on that table, and I have an extra one I can give you later. And the key point in this is it's about what matters to you. This isn't what matters to me. Well, I'll go through some of my things. This is about what matters to you. So feel free to fill it out or wait till the end. But determine what matters, why it matters, and you'll find time for what matters. So first off, we have to determine your why. Simon Sinek said it best, and it's not what you do, but why you do it. So in order to find out why, ask yourself why, which sounds a little confusing, so let me explain. Using my friend, and maybe yours, Jiminy Cricket.
I'm no fool, no siree. I want to live to be 93. I play safe for you and me, cause I'm no fool.
I figured you had enough of my singing. So, if we were asking Jiminy Cricket and discovering his why. So, Jiminy Cricket, why do you want to live to be 93? Well, I have thought a lot about this guy, so I have a whole story for him. But Jiminy, he says he wants to be there for Jiminy Jr. Well, why do you want to be there for Jiminy Jr.? Well, his dad wasn't there for him, and he wants to be there for him. So his why may be legacy. But as I asked myself, my why, it was in Christ alone for his glory. But each of us will have a why that is unique to us. Determine what matters, why it matters, and you'll find time for what matters. So first off, list all your roles. And we start with our primary roles. Primary roles are those things that pretty much stay constant with us. Like your heart, that core of who you are that wants to connect to something bigger than who you are. For me, my heart wants to connect to Jesus, but because I know he's bigger than me. But each of us are going to have that desire just to connect and to know there's something else out there, a bigger why. And health. That's things like physical health, how much you sleep, which going back to sleep is going to be determined by each person. Some of us may want 9 hours, others may be good on 7. 7 is how much I got this morning, so my 9 might be a goal, but it's not a constant in my life. And then we may be tired, but it could be based on the fuel that we're giving our body. Things like fruits, vegetables, or proteins, or what works for me is probably going to be different than your body type, because all of us are going to find things that matter to them and what work for them. Physical exercise. I was running and I was really happy that I was running 3 days a week. I had accomplished my goal. I'd gone from 9 to 10 hours a week, but then I noticed I was a little bit like a sloth on the weekends. There was a weekend I had nothing scheduled. It was glorious, or almost nothing. And I had time to do Skillshare classes and read books and maybe watch a few movies, but it wasn't an entire Netflix binge. But I was like, how can I be physically doing what I want to be doing if I'm not doing anything on the weekends? And I'm like, I need to do something that gets me outside, to go for a walk or something. And then there's those books, but maybe that's different for each of us. Toastmasters may be how you learn. But having that mental health or something that we're doing for ourselves mentally. Any Wordle fans out there? I think I got impressive this morning. I was pretty happy. And then emotional health. It doesn't always look like that. In fact, I have a cheat, but that's for another time. Emotional health. Doing things that fuel you, like journaling or being outside, but finding ways to take care of you. And then home. Home is like things like my husband Tim, and for me, my Yorkie Minnie and my parrot Laredo. But those are the people who live in your home. Then you look at those secondary roles. Now, those are things that may change throughout your life, but that's why they're called secondary roles. So let's look at our friend Jiminy Cricket. He's a personal coach to Pinocchio. He goes to church weekly, and I know he's sitting on a matchbox, but when it was a really little thing, I thought it was a book. So he really likes to read books that look like matchboxes. There's Mrs. Cricket and Jiminy Jr. Oh, and he also has that big job at Walt Disney. Those are some of the things that Jiminy may have put down. My roles are heart, health, physical, mental, emotional, wife, author, artist, entrepreneur, community builder, speaker, relationships, education, networking. No wonder I struggle to find time for what matters. Got a little tired reading the list. But anyways, there's 10 slots for you to fill out some of the roles that you do. Maybe you have 10, maybe you have 20, maybe you have 5. It doesn't matter. It's about you. And then we prioritize our list. Because what's 1 isn't going to be 2, and they're going to vary. Now, to give an example, last night I gave my dog Minnie a shower, and I got a little drop of shampoo in her eye. It's medicated shampoo, and after rinsing and rinsing and rinsing, she was still teared up and in pain this morning. So I was ready to clear off my schedule and to get her to the vet and get her the medicine she needed. Because they make it too. But as Jiminy prioritized it, he went to church. That was important for him so that Jiminy Jr. could see that example. His taking care of his health or reading, that also really helps him as those Walt Disney pictures, because those writers and all those people on the studios, they need his help for living to be 93. They need his wisdom so they make wise choices and not be fools like he warns us about. And then there's Mrs. Cricket, which is before Jiminy Jr., and that's because Jiminy wants his son to see him invest in his relationships and to see what it looks like to have those healthy relationships so that Jiminy Jr. gets that example. And then doesn't show all the way, but he's a personal coach to Pinocchio. Oh, but that's not number 6. Number 5 is Walt Disney Studio. That actually pays the best, so it went first. But it's important to him that he doesn't work on his movies on nights and weekends, so he can be there for Jiminy Jr. And then, oh, thank you, David. And then his personal coaching business. Now, he wants to one day take on a lot more coaches. Like I said, I've thought a lot about this guy. He wants to one day do that, but right now, Jiminy Jr. is a little young, so that one personal coaching job is all he's doing for now. But that was a kind of a big one because he did help him turn into a real boy. So, but as you write down your list, you'll see that each one has a number. And like I said, there's 10, but if you write small, you could get 20 in there. You only have 5, bless you. You probably have a little bit more time for what matters. But then the next step is to prioritize what matters. And that's that example I used, how I stopped, cleared off my whole schedule to get Minnie to the vet. Thankfully, I woke up early, not on purpose, but I woke up at 5, got my whole morning done, so I was able to take her when I normally would have had lunch, and somehow I got everything done, which was really nice because we're going on a trip tomorrow. But as we prioritize what matters, sometimes we'll be clearing the schedule for things that matter. And those numbers don't always equal into time. Because on a normal day, she doesn't get the whole day cleared for her. But determine what matters, why it matters, and you'll find time for what matters. Now, as I considered what mattered to me, that was reading. And those articles suggested I find time at lunch. Well, lunch is when I read articles and devotions and scanned my email, and I really enjoyed that. But on that list, email didn't make it. So I said, I'll at least try it. I enjoy reading email, but I'll try it, I'll give it a try. What's the worst that can happen? I try it once, and the next day I go back to reading email, and something happened. I was truly able to step away from all the things that I was doing in the morning. And I sat outside and I pulled out, I would say I was free of screens, but I usually read on a Kindle, except for that book that we got at the Toastmasters conference. That was really good. And it was nice and short, and I was able to knock that one right off my list. Very good book if you haven't read it. But I sat out there and I read, and I really got away, so it helped me physically as I sat in the fresh air. It helped me mentally as I read a book, which even if it's fiction, you're still getting an escape or doing those things that help you think of connect with different emotions and things. So even fiction, you don't have to be reading textbooks to benefit from this. And then that emotional health, because I was truly stepping away. So as you determine what matters, think about that thing that matters to you. And then consider why it matters. Where does it rate on your list? Because life is never going to slow down. You're going to have to find time for what matters by saying yes and saying no. As I said no to email, I found more time to read. In the evenings, I say no to Netflix, even though that's a challenge sometimes. I don't always say no to Netflix. I really like my movies on the weekend. But as I say no to that, I find more time for reading because that's important to me. But as you consider those things that are important to you, you'll have to figure out what you'll say yes to and what you'll say no to. So determine what matters, why it matters, and you'll find time for what matters.